Can the Longhorn offense turn things around before it's too late? We're talking about it on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Steve Sarkisian was asked if he's surprised by how poorly Arch Manning is playing, and we'll also look back on the three things that I said Texas needed to do against UTEP. But first, let's dive into the Texas offense. I'll just say it right off the bat. I think Saturday's offensive performance was the worst we've ever seen from a Steve Sarkisian offense during his 4+ years in Austin. Seriously. Worse than anything that happened in 5 and 7, worse than the TCU game in 2022, worse than the Ohio State game in week 1 this year. It was the worst offensive performance that we have seen from a Steve Sarkisian-led Longhorn team. Texas averaged just 4.2 yards per play against UTEP on Saturday. 4.2. UTEP, on the other hand, who didn't get into the end zone until the very end of the game when Texas had a bunch of third and fourth stringers in on defense, they averaged 4.4 yards per play. That's insane. A lot of my argument here is that Texas was playing against UTEP, right? The 4.2 yards per play number is the 5th worst for a game in the Sark era, so not the worst in that stat, but you look at the 4 performances that were worse in terms of yards per play, they all came against Power 4 teams. 2 of them happened in 2021, the losses at Arkansas and at Iowa State. You could excuse those a little bit. Year 1 for Steve Sarkisian, walking into a rough situation. A lot he had to turn around and clean up, and you were playing on the road. Arkansas won 9 games that year. Iowa State was a pretty good team that season. Okay, you could stomach those a little bit more. The TCU game in 2022, that's on the list. Well, TCU played for a national championship that year. You can deal with that one a little bit more. And then the 2024 Georgia game, the one in Austin, that was the 4th of those 4 games where Texas averaged fewer yards per play than they did on Saturday. I mean, it's Georgia. They won the SEC title last year. They're Georgia. Again, you don't like any of those performances. I'm not here telling you they're good, but you understand them a little bit more because of the opponent that you were going up against. This was against UTEP at home. Now, the good news, Texas won the game. They didn't win the others. But, man, any way you slice it, Saturday was abysmal for the Longhorn offense. Arch Manning completed 44% of his passes. He was 11 of 25 for 114 yards. He didn't get over 100 yards until we were midway through the 4th quarter. The running game barely got to 4 yards a carry, and they had way too many negative plays. I think they had 12 stuffs on Saturday, meaning 0 yards or negative yards on carries. The offensive line got pushed around against UTEP. Wide receivers weren't getting open enough. They had way too many penalties. Again, Texas sucked on 3rd and 4th down. Again, red zone failures. Again, it was all bad. It was all bad against UTEP. And give them some credit. Look, they made Texas work for everything on Saturday, and I really like Scotty Walden as a head coach. I think he's got a very, very bright future, and he's done a solid job in a year and change with that program. But come on, we're talking about UTEP here. We're not talking about Ohio State. We're not talking about any of the teams that Texas is going to see when they get to SEC play. There's no identity with this offense right now. Like, seriously, I don't know what they're good at. I'd love to hear from y'all in the comments below. What is the identity of this Texas offense through 3 games? I think the most successful play to this point in the year has been the quarterback run game. Is that the identity? Is Arch going to become Haynes King and what they do at Georgia Tech? Is Arch about to become Tyrone Swoops and what the Texas offense looked like in that era of Longhorn football? That's not what I want. And I know for a fact that that is not what Steve Sarkisian wants the identity of this group to be. They're not good at anything right now. And they sure as heck lack any sort of consistency as well. It feels like every time that group takes one step forward, it is immediately 2 steps back, right? They have that 5-minute stretch against San Jose State where they score 28 points, and it's like, oh, here it is. There's the offense. They've got their rhythm, and now it's all systems go from here on out. No. Problems the rest of that game, and obviously those problems got even worse the following week against UTEP. They are so dysfunctional as a group. It starts with the head coach, of course, who is the offensive play caller, but on the field, it starts with the quarterback. And when you have a quarterback who's not playing well, and you have a quarterback who doesn't have confidence right now, that impacts all 11 on the offense, and that is clearly what is happening right now. They look discombobulated right now. Not at times, like all the time. It's rare when they look combobulated. I think that's a word. It is rare when they look functional. Way more often than not, they've been the opposite of that. And man, I'll tell y'all what, watching some of the other action from around the SEC over the weekend, it's hard to feel confident that the Longhorns are going to be much of a factor in this league this year. I mean, it really is. A&M looked good in a road victory at Notre Dame. Their offense scored 40-plus against a defense that played for a national title last year. Oklahoma looked good again. Obviously, an impressive showing by them against Michigan last weekend. We saw Mississippi State beat Arizona State a couple of weeks ago. Vanderbilt stomped South Carolina in Columbia on Saturday night. Georgia is still Georgia. This league is good. We know that. We've always known that. The SEC is always good, but it looks even better and deeper than usual this year. And, some of the opponents that we thought were going to be easy wins for the Longhorns feel anything but right now. This Texas defense is legit. This Longhorn defense is playing at a 12-0 level right now. This offense looks like 5-7, and I might be generous saying that because you look at Texas's schedule moving forward, there is only one game that I am truly confident that Texas is going to win with the way that they are playing on offense right now, and that's this weekend's game against Sam Houston. Every game in the SEC, could Texas win them? Of course. But if the offense plays like it did on Saturday, they could lose all of them too. I don't think that's going to happen, but they could lose all of them too. There needs to be a sense of urgency. After the Ohio State game, the conversation was, well, we've got 3 games and 4 weeks to clean it up before SEC play gets here. Now we're down to 1 game and 2 weeks before the trip to the swamp in early October. And we've gone backwards. It's not like it's stagnated. It's actually gone worse from what we saw a week ago. That's the problem. There are 16 teams in the SEC. Texas ranks 14th in total offense. They rank 14th in scoring offense as well. The teams ranked below them, South Carolina and LSU. Both of those teams have already played 2 Power 4 opponents. Yes, Texas had to play on the road at Ohio State, but the Longhorns have also played 2 G5 teams. South Carolina and LSU have both played 2 Power Conference teams, and they both already played an SEC game. LSU is 3-0. I don't think they're complaining too much. South Carolina, Lenora Sellers got hurt against Vanderbilt in the first half of that game. You can kind of chalk up some of their offensive numbers and struggles to that as well. So I'd rather be LSU than Texas right now, too. The Longhorn offense is broken right now. It is broken right now. We talked about that in the post-game show on Saturday. It is broken. Now, the good news, things that are broken can be fixed. The bad news, this thing feels like it's shattered into a million pieces right now, and you're kind of running out of time to fix it. Florida's less than 3 weeks away. The Oklahoma game up in Dallas, less than a month away. Hey, coaches are problem solvers. Steve Sarkisian gets paid a lot of money to fix this stuff, and I still believe he's one of the best offensive minds in the sport. I think he's proven that in his first 4 years at Texas. Well, it's time for him to earn his paycheck. He makes a lot of money. He got a big contract extension going into this season. It's time for him to find a way to get this thing rolling because, again, there is no identity right now. There is nothing that side of the ball does well for Texas. It is sloppy. It is undisciplined. It is bad. The stats tell the story. The eye test tells the story. There is nothing you could point to that is good for the Texas offense at this moment in time. And again, the consistency. When you start to feel like maybe we found something, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Time for Texas to fix this. Time for there to be a sense of urgency because, again, time is not your friend right now. All right, we'll let you hear from Coach Sark, who addressed the press after Saturday's win. What's going on with Arch Manning? Can it be fixed? The head coach gives his thoughts, and I have some of my thoughts on what maybe the Longhorns could do to get Arch Manning into a little bit more of a rhythm. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word for our friends at the Game Cap. Quick question for all of you Texas fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be this one right here, the Game. These aren't just hats. These are the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price that they did back then. When you use the code Locked On, you're going to get your vintage hat like this one for $16.99. Where can you get a good hat like that at that price these days? Nowhere besides thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design like this one and use the code Locked On for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. And also a shout out to our friends at 5 Hour Energy as well. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with zero sugar and zero crashes. What I love most about 5 Hour Energy, how portable they are, right? Big taste, a lot of caffeine, tiny shot. You could take it anywhere and get a boost whenever you need it. The grape is my favorite flavor, but again, they have 17 different flavors to choose from. They are absolutely fantastic. So easy to drink as well. So enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com. You can get it on Amazon as well. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. We've got 2 bits of sound from Steve Sarkisian's post-game presser. The first clip we're about to play here is Steve Sarkisian when asked about how much of what is happening with Arch Manning is mental. Having some technical issues trying to record, so let's make sure I can do this right. Here is the head coach.
I would probably say, for the most part, it's all mental, quite frankly, right? When you really think about the physical ability to make throws. And now it's trust, belief, confidence, all those things, right, that play into it. And, his ability to move on to the next play, I think is something that we've got to continue to work on and not harbor the last plays and the last plays and the last plays and have the ability to refocus, recalibrate, and focus on the next play. And so those are all things that, like I said, until you get put into these fires that you have to learn from some of these things, it's a lot easier, when you're on the outside looking in to say, just do this, just do that. Now he's in the fire. Now we got to make these adjustments in real time. And like I said, that's kind of the fun part of it all, that we have something really to work on. We know what it is. It's tangible, and we can get it done. We've been down this road before, and we've like I said, we've righted the ship before. So, we'll get there.
So there's Sark answering the question about whether or not Arch Manning's struggles are mental, and I agree with him. I think they are mental right now. I mean, we've seen Arch Manning play better than this before. We saw it last year. He looked better. I know it was a small sample size, but in the 2.5 real games that he played in last year, he looked a lot better than what he's looked like here in 2025. So we know the physical ability is there, and we've seen it at times even this year, even when the rest of everything isn't going right. We've still seen Arch play well in certain spots, but it's obviously not consistent enough. I think he's got the yips right now. I really do. I know that's like a sacrilegious word, and it's a scary word to hear when you're talking about a quarterback, or obviously when you're talking about a baseball player. The yips are a horrible thing, but I really believe that there is something going on up here with Arch Manning right now that isn't allowing him to play the way he is capable of playing. I hope that doesn't sound like I'm making a bunch of excuses for the guy. Like, he's got to figure it out. They've got to find a way to make Arch Manning play better, because this version of Arch isn't good enough, and Texas isn't going to go very far if this is the type of quarterback play they get every Saturday. Ultimately, it falls on the quarterback. He's got to get out of this rut that he is in right now. But I wonder if a sports psychologist is something that could work with Arch Manning. Texas has a lot of those on the payroll. Maybe they've already tried. I hope they haven't tried, because if they've tried that and it hasn't worked, then I don't know. maybe you could try a different psychologist or a different therapist or mentalist or something, but like maybe getting Arch Manning set up with somebody who can clear up what's happening here, because it just doesn't look right. He looks rushed. He looks nervous. He looks panicked. He looks scared at times back there in the pocket. And it's causing all sorts of problems with his accuracy, with his decision-making, and again, just his overall play. So it's bad. Sark at the end of that cut talked about, we've been down this road before. I don't know. I mean, I know Quinn Ewers was perfect, but I don't remember him having a stretch like this where he just looked this lost for this long of a period of time. So maybe 2021 with the quarterback play you got from Hudson Card and Casey Thompson. I get that wasn't great, but I don't know if this is a road that Texas has been down in a while. Definitely not in the Steve Sarkisian era. So look, Sark always is upbeat. He's a player's coach. He's going to defend his guys till he's blue in the face. He's going to keep the positivity and the confidence. And long season ahead. Texas still 2-1. They've got all of their goals ahead of them. So he's not pushing the panic button or sounding the alarms right now. But again, this is not good enough, what's happening right now. All right, here is another one from Steve Sarkisian. He was asked in the postgame if he's surprised by how bad Arch Manning has looked so far. And also the follow-up was, did he consider giving Arch Manning a series or two off against UTEP? Again, let's see if we can make this work.
To have a pretty good understanding of who he is as a player and what he's capable of. And I know there's a lot of football in there that's high-level quality football. And so is my expectation of him as a player high? Yes. Do I expect him to play the best football of his career the first 3 games of this season? Probably not. That probably wouldn't be fair. But our job as coaches is to work him towards that, and so that he continually improves throughout the season, like all of our players on our team. I think it's too early to say, oh, give him a series. He provides enough offense for us where I can go a different way, using his legs and provide offense that way. And obviously, he scored 2 touchdowns with his legs today to take advantage of it. Had a nice 2-minute drive right there at the end of the first half to score. So there was a lot of good in there. I just know, I think we all agree that there's better in there, right? That's to come. And again, it's a race to get there as fast as we can.
So there you go. Apologies. I spoke over Sark at the beginning of that cut, but there you go. It's a race to get there as fast as we can. He's absolutely right. The way he ended that clip. And, there were a lot of Longhorn fans. I shouldn't say a lot, but I saw a few on social media during that game calling for a benching. And look, the Boo Birds were out at DKR towards the end of the first half. There's some folks, needless to say, not very happy with the way Arch Manning was playing on Saturday afternoon. And it's a tough situation. Like, you never know how a guy is going to respond to a benching. Some guys, it can be a wake-up call. It can be the kick in the rear that they need to get things going. For some guys, it can be nice for them to observe things from the sideline for a little bit. You get a different vantage point, and you get to see how this is operating. And, oh, here's what I should have been doing, and here's, what I need to be doing. And, hey, now I've got a clearer view of what's going on out there on the field. But for some guys, it can break them. And we're already talking about a guy who is lacking confidence right now with Arch Manning. A benching like that can shatter someone's confidence here. We're talking about a 21-year-old kid as well. Now, I have no idea what giving Arch Manning a series or two off would have done for Arch, right? I don't know Arch Manning the way Steve Sarkisian does. I don't really know Arch Manning at all. So I'm trusting that Steve Sarkisian made the right decision here. And guys, think of the headlines. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. Everything that happens with Arch Manning is psychoanalyzed to the 11th degree. I mean, more than any quarterback that maybe we have ever seen play this sport. The microscope on him is unbelievably big. If the headline comes out that Arch Manning got benched, that's tough. I know Arch talks about not paying attention to the outside noise, not caring about all that stuff. Dude, if that becomes a headline, I mean, that is the number one story. This is already a big story, how bad the Texas offense looks and how poor Arch Manning has looked so far through 3 games this season. But if you add, he got benched for Matthew Caldwell on top of all of that, yeah, benching Arch Manning is different than benching Quinn Ewers or maybe any other quarterback in the history of college football. So I don't think Steve Sarkisian wanted to do that. Clearly he didn't, because he didn't do that. But, it was bad. It was bad on Saturday. And again, they are in a race to get this thing figured out right now because it's surprisingly bad to me how bad Arch Manning has looked. Even if the expectations were outrageous going into the year, and they were outrageous, making this guy the Heisman favorite, favorite to be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft, despite not having started more than 2 games in his college career. Even though all that stuff was outlandish, didn't expect it to look this bad. I don't think anybody did. So it's got to get fixed. There you go. Some sound from the head coach. We'll continue to talk more about Arch in the next segment and more about Arch throughout the course of this week. All right, 1 segment to go on a Monday show. Last Friday, I gave 3 things that we needed to see from the Longhorns against UTEP. Did they do any of them? We will take a look back coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right actually means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your hot sports takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. Prize Picks is such a fun way to stay locked into the football season all year long, and it makes your Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays way more exciting. And the best part, even if one of your picks misses, Prize Picks invented the flex play, so you could still double your money. Yeah. Download the Prize Picks download the Prize Picks app today. Easy for me to say. And use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, the code is LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. It's Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And also a shout out to our friends at FanDuel as well. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. However you like to bet, player props, same-game parlays, live in-game betting, it doesn't matter. You can do it all with FanDuel. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by heading over to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Final segment of a Monday show. On last Friday's show, I talked about there being things that we wanted to see Texas do against UTEP, and then there being things that we needed to see Texas do against UTEP. The 3 things in the need category were fewer penalties, better success on third down, and more explosive runs. I said if we don't see those 3 things in this game, there's legitimate cause for concern that they are going to be problems all season long. I'm officially pressing the panic button with these. We'll start with the penalties. Look, technically, the Longhorns had fewer penalties this week than they did last week. They had 12 against San Jose State. They only had 7 against UTEP. They had 115 penalty yards against San Jose State, only 78 penalty yards against UTEP. Believe it or not, the 7 penalties for 78 yards, actually less than the Longhorns season average going into the game on Saturday. So maybe I'm not being too harsh. That's way too many penalties against a team like UTEP. And it's the 3rd time in as many weeks that the Longhorns have lost the penalty battle to their opponents. It's not ref bias. I know Texas fans have been like, the refs, they just don't like Texas. They're screwing us here. No, it's just Texas sloppiness here. The penalties called on Texas have been legitimate. False starts, you got to call those. Some of the offensive holding penalties, you got to call those. Some of these hands to the faces, you've got to call those. Like, you're just sloppy. You're just undisciplined right now. And case in point, through 3 games, the Longhorns rank 117th in the country in penalties per game. That's out of 136 teams, by the way. Even worse, they rank 126th in penalty yards per game. Second to last in the SEC, ahead of only Mississippi State. You don't want to be in their company, do you? It's unacceptable. Penalties still an issue. You're playing G5 teams at home. Good gravy. The number 2 thing I needed to see, third down success. Entering Saturday, Texas had 26 third down attempts this year. They had converted just 7 of them. That was a whopping 26%, which had the Horns ranked 121st in the country. We wanted to see not just some improvement there. We wanted to see big improvement there. We didn't see it. Texas went just 5 of 16 on third down against UTEP. They were also 2 of 5 on fourth down as well. 5 fourth downs is too many against that team. But the money downs, again, 7 of 21. If you combine third and fourth down, 33% against a team you were favored to beat by 41 points. Brutal. Looking at just third downs again, Texas is now 12 of 42 on the year. That's just over 28%. Hey, they were 26% before the game. Maybe I'm being too harsh, right? I'm not being too harsh. If you're curious where Texas stacks up with the rest of the country, they are 114th in third down offense right now. Yikes. And last but not least, the third thing I felt like we needed to see against the Miners, explosive runs. We're 0 for 3. Penalty problems, third down problems, explosive run problems. Look, Trey Wisner didn't play, and C.J. Baxter left the game after one play. So that obviously doesn't help. But still, you had your full complement of offensive linemen, and your backup running backs are more talented than anybody that they have on their defense. You should have been able to run the ball pretty effectively without Wisner and Baxter in this game, and you didn't. Instead, just 4.1 yards a carry. And just like last week, your quarterback had the longest run of the day. Actually, your quarterbacks had the longest run of the day. Both Arch Manning and Matthew Caldwell in his limited snaps had 14-yard runs for Texas. Well, the longest of the day for the Horns. Those two guys, they shouldn't be your most explosive runners. No, sorry. Your longest running back run was 13 yards. It was by James Simon. Simon looked pretty good, 3.9 yards a carry. Jarrett Gibson, thought he ran hard at times, 3.6 yards a carry. Texas has played 3 games this year, 2 of them against way lesser competition. They have 1 run of more than 20 yards this year, and that was Arch Manning's 20-yard on the nose touchdown run against San Jose State in the third quarter last weekend. That's it. They were tied for 99th in the country in 20-plus yard runs going into Saturday. I haven't been able to find an updated stat yet. I'll try to get that for y'all at some point this week, but obviously it's gotten worse. You had 1 through 2 games. That had you 99th. Now you have 1 through 3 games. You're going down. The offensive line was not good, especially on the right side. Even DJ Campbell, your lone returning starter from last year, he's struggling. 3 penalties, 3 holding penalties in the 3 games this year. The O-line's just not good enough. The run game's not good enough. There's no electricity. There's no explosivity there. And it's the entire offense. I know we spent a lot of time talking about Arch Manning today, and the quarterback always dominates the conversation, especially when it's this quarterback. But the run game isn't good enough. The offensive line play is not good enough. The receivers aren't good enough. And you're banged up. And the play calling's not good enough, too. Don't want to absolve the coach of any of the blame here. It is all bad right now. So Texas went 0 for 3. The 3 things I thought we needed to see the offense clean up, they failed on all 3 accounts. And that's this is the harshest I've ever been after a 3-score victory. But, man, it's frustrating. This defense is elite. I feel bad for a guy like Michael Taft. Came back for a 5th year to try to win a national championship. He's doing his part. His defensive mates are doing their part, too. I feel bad for the entire defense, not just Michael Taft. But the offense clearly not carrying their weight. They've got to turn it around. I tried to end on a high note. I didn't today. That's on me. It's Monday. Mondays suck. We'll brighten the day. We'll brighten the mood tomorrow. We'll continue to try to figure out how Texas can clean things up on offense. But now I'm just word vomiting, so we're done here. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Thank you so much for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets with Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers. They are your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs. Can't thank y'all enough for the continued support of what we do here on Locked On Longhorns. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment as well. We'll love to get y'all's thoughts on what you saw from the Horns on Saturday afternoon. But that'll do it for today. Until next time, horns up, mics off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.